There's a specific moment that most Netflix quitters remember. It's not righteous. It's not a health kick. It's not part of some grand life redesign. It's usually 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. The little "Are you still watching?" prompt has appeared for the third time, and something inside them just folds. Not anger, something quieter than that. A kind of tired recognition. They open settings, they cancel, they close the laptop, and they go to bed feeling like they got away with something. 6 months later, most of them will tell you the same thing. They didn't miss the shows, they missed the excuse. That's the psychological pattern researchers keep finding underneath streaming disengagement. It looks like a media decision. It's almost never a media decision. It's a relationship with time that has quietly stopped working, and the person is the last to notice. Here's what's actually happening inside the quitter's head, and why the first 2 weeks are the hardest. The average person doesn't watch Netflix to be entertained. They watch it to be occupied. There's a difference. Entertainment is engagement with something specific, a story, a character, a joke. Occupation is the neurological state of being just distracted enough not to have to meet yourself. Streaming, more than almost any other medium, is optimized for occupation. The autoplay countdown, the next episode in 5, 4, 3, the endlessly generated thumbnails tuned to your face. Every design decision is engineered to make the transition from 1 hour to the next feel invisible. And it works. Which is why quitting isn't hard, because the shows are so good. Quitting is hard because the silence is so loud. Ask a Netflix quitter what they did the first night after canceling, and they'll usually describe some version of the same experience. They sat down, they reached for the remote, they remembered, and then they just sat there. For most people, that pause, that unfilled 30 seconds, is the first time in months they've been alone with their nervous system without an on-ramp back into something. Some describe it as boredom, but it's not really boredom. Boredom has restlessness in it. What the quitters describe is closer to a soft, humming grief. Because in that empty half hour, the questions they've been outrunning finally have somewhere to land. Am I actually happy at this job? Is this the relationship I want? When was the last time I called my father? Why do I feel this specific kind of tired all the time? The show was never the point. The show was a very expensive form of noise-canceling headphones for your own inner voice. This is where the psychological branch splits. Some people, when the noise stops, meet those questions. Slowly. Uncomfortably. They start writing again, or reading again, or calling people, or crying in the shower for reasons they can finally name. This group tends to describe the 6-month mark as feeling 10 years younger and 10 years older at the same time. Younger because they've reclaimed the specific alertness that comes from being present in your own evening. Older because they've been forced to admit what they were hiding from. The other group refills the hole. They don't go back to Netflix, that would feel like defeat, but they migrate. YouTube, TikTok, long podcasts on 2x speed. The particular platform doesn't matter. The behavior is identical. Because the deeper mechanism was never about Netflix, it was about the human need to not be alone with a certain kind of quiet. Streaming was just the most polished delivery system, and this is the part that outsiders rarely understand about people who genuinely quit. They're not proud. They're not moralizing. Most of them are almost embarrassed about it, because they know what the deeper story is. They know that a stronger version of themselves probably wouldn't have needed to quit at all, could have watched 2 episodes a week and closed the laptop and gone to sleep like a normal person. The fact that they had to cancel entirely is, in a strange way, a confession. They're the addicts who couldn't have one drink. There's a second pattern, and it's more subtle. Netflix quitters often report a strange sharpening of taste. Colors seem more saturated in ordinary rooms. Conversations become more interesting. A mediocre novel starts feeling like a 5-course meal. Neurologically, this makes sense. When you spend hundreds of hours on content specifically engineered to hijack the brain's novelty response, your baseline gets recalibrated upward. Real life starts to feel muted by comparison. Everything you meet gets graded against a curve set by a billion-dollar algorithm. Pulling the algorithm out of your life lets the curve reset. The sunset outside your window has to compete with the sunset outside your window again, not with a drone shot scored by an orchestra. And once your nervous system remembers that ordinary things are actually beautiful, the ordinary things start to feel like they're enough. That's the piece that quitters find the hardest to explain to friends. It sounds precious. It sounds like the annoying guy at the party who doesn't own a TV. But underneath the cliché is something real. The quitters aren't rejecting stories, they're reclaiming a specific bandwidth in their attention that they didn't know had been leased out. There's one last piece of the psychology, and it's the one that keeps quitters from ever going back. It's identity. The first few weeks, you're a person who canceled Netflix. Somewhere around week 8, you become a person who doesn't watch Netflix. That's a very small linguistic shift with a very large psychological consequence. Because the second version isn't fighting the pull anymore. There's no willpower involved. It's simply not what they do, the way a vegetarian doesn't stand at the meat counter negotiating with themselves. The behavior has moved from decision to identity, and once it's there, it's almost invisible to maintain. This is why so many of them describe it as freeing rather than restrictive. From the outside, I don't watch Netflix sounds like a limitation. From the inside, it's the opposite. It's one fewer negotiation the brain has to run every evening. One fewer little argument with yourself about whether tonight is the night you finally sleep at a reasonable hour. And when you subtract those small, invisible negotiations from a life, what's left is a shocking amount of energy. So here's the uncomfortable takeaway. The Netflix quitters are not, on average, more disciplined than you. They're not smarter. They're not living some monastic life. Most of them are perfectly ordinary people who hit a wall and made one small change and then discovered, 6 months later, that the small change wasn't small at all. It was a load-bearing wall. Pulling it out changed the shape of everything. And they'll tell you, if you ask them directly, that the thing they miss most is not any specific show. It's the person they were before they realized they had been using entertainment as an anesthetic. That version of them, the one who genuinely didn't know, is gone. Which is, in the end, why so few of them ever go back. You can't unhear silence once you've finally heard it.